Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy cow-milked while flying in an airplane day. On today's show, we are recapping a ginormous victory for the Ohio State University Buckeyes. They not only defeat a Wisconsin Badgers team that is on fire until they ran into Ohio State, but we recap a significant win, a blowout win, a demolition of the Badgers last night as the Buckeyes very easily disposed of Wisconsin. Final score, Ohio State 86, Wisconsin 69 in this one. It was a fun game from start to finish. One of the better games Ohio State has played all year, if not the best game Ohio State has played over the course of this entire season. So we will recap this game and break it down in its entirety. I've got a bunch of takeaways from this one. Before we get into it, of course, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. We are close to 300, very close. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do and like the video as well on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave a 5-star review as well. Can't let the Nut House win. However, I will say, it sounded like they were pretty solid last night, so give them credit. We will give them credit. We'll be fair and balanced on this show as always, even when it comes to the Nut House. So thanks for being here today. Great win for Ohio State. I went into this game, I said in the insider subscriber chat, I said, look, I think Ohio State's going to lose by probably double digits in this one. I didn't have a good feeling. I looked at how Ohio State played Wisconsin the first time. I looked at the fact that now Ohio State does not have John Mobley Jr. Wisconsin probably going to be a more productive team from three in this one than they were in the first matchup. And Wisconsin's on fire. They've beaten Michigan State and Illinois over the past two. They've won 4 of their last 5, including a victory over Ohio State. So that said, I did not really give Ohio State much of a chance in this one. Wisconsin only favored by 1.5 on the road. So basically seen as a toss-up. And Ohio State made me look very wrong in this one. And a lot of other Ohio State fans as well, at least ones that were in my comments throughout the day yesterday. So the Buckeyes get the job done in this one. There's just so much. There's a plethora of numbers to get into from this win for Ohio State. I think that overall, I mean, you win a game by 17 points. There's not a lot to complain about necessarily, but how do you beat a team like Wisconsin by 17 points? A lot of things have got to go right, and a lot of things have got to go really, really well for you. So what were those things for Ohio State? Well, I start with the Buckeyes' shooting ability from behind the arc in this one. It started with Devin Royal, kind of finished with Devin Royal as well. In this game, Ohio State shot 52% from downtown in this win. It was an 11 for 21 performance from Ohio State. The Buckeyes' best 2 shooting games, by the way, in Big Ten play from behind the arc has come against Wisconsin and come against Wisconsin. So Ohio State likes to play Wisconsin when it comes to at least shooting the 3 ball. This is the second time Ohio State has shot over 50% from the 3-point line this season. It's the first time that the Buckeyes have done it here in Big Ten play. I thought by the end of the first half, the efficiency certainly is going to wind down. There's no way Ohio State can shoot this effectively from behind the 3-point line yet again, right? And in the second half, Ohio State actually ended up shooting better from behind the 3-point line. They shot at 63% in the final 20 minutes of this game. Amari Bynum, 3 for 4. Incredible performance out of Amari Bynum. I mean, the block that he had in the first half, the shooting ability that he shows. We talk about the motor he plays with. We talk about the rebounding, things like that. But Amari Bynum, he just continues to look more and more comfortable for Ohio State. Sure, he has some good games. Sure, he has some not so great games. But at this point, you continue to get that performance out of Amari Bynum. You don't even expect him to go 3 of 4 from deep. Not at all moving forward. But just showing the capability that he can do that, I think that's a huge plus for Ohio State. Tyson Chapman, a little bit more of a quiet game from him. 1 of 2 from deep, but he does finish with 11 points, 3 of 6 from the field. Adds an assist as well in 29 minutes of play. He played better than he did in his first start against Virginia. So that was encouraging to see. Devin Royal, Bruce Thornton, both were great from behind the three-point line as well. This is how you beat Wisconsin. I've talked about this a bunch whenever we talk about Wisconsin, how much they shoot three-pointers. This is how you beat them. Wisconsin, they were 7-26 from behind the three-point line. That number dropped a little bit just because you saw a lot of desperation attempts and heaves late in the game for the Badgers, just trying to get back into it. But now Ohio State in 2 games against Wisconsin, they've got 2 really strong performances when it comes to three-point defense against the Badgers. This is a very, very good three-point offense that Wisconsin owns. So that, to me, that's the biggest stat profile in this game as we look at takeaways and how Ohio State won this game. I think number one, it's their shooting from the three-point line. But another reason that Ohio State won this game, they out-rebounded Wisconsin 35-27 in this game. It's almost as if the preview shows they may not be a total waste of time. It may be a partial waste of time, but it's at least not a total waste of time when you're listening to the Views from the Shop podcast. I said 2 ways that Ohio State can win this game. They've got to win at the three-point line, both offensively and defensively, and especially defensively, and they did that. And I also said, look, Wisconsin, they've been susceptible on the defensive glass. They've been susceptible rebounding over the past 5 games. Even though they played really well, they've struggled a little bit there on the boards. And Ohio State beat the brakes out of Wisconsin. Now, in the first half, I will say they struggled a little bit, especially on the defensive glass. Wisconsin had some offensive rebounds. They scored some second chance points. But as the game went on, Ohio State got stronger on the glass. In the second half, they out-rebound Wisconsin by 6. Bruce Thornton, don't think it's a good thing, but it is what happened. He leads the team in rebounding. Your 6'2" guard probably shouldn't be leading your team in rebounding, but that's just another day at the office for old Brucey. He has 9 rebounds. Amari Bynum, Njegovan both contribute 6. Devin Royal also has 5 rebounds in this game. The Buckeyes were really, really good on the glass in this one. Nolan Winter only had 7 rebounds for Wisconsin to lead the way. John Blackwell had 6. So not a great rebounding game from Wisconsin. Ohio State looked really, really good on the glass in this one. Now, some individual performers in this game. These 2 players were huge for Ohio State. It was Bruce Thornton and it was Devin Royal. I'll start with Devin Royal. He didn't lead the team in scoring. He did have 25 points in this one, 10 of 17 from the field, 4 of 7 from the three-point line in this one, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, an all-around complete game from Devin Royal. He came out firing, and he was incredibly efficient from start to finish in this one for Ohio State. I talk about Devin Royal first because fans have been very unhappy with his play for Ohio State over the past several games. You look at sometimes the effort against Virginia, just effort at times throughout the season. It's left a lot to be desired when it comes to Devin Royal playing for Ohio State. However, in this one, he plays really, really well. You look at his three-point shooting. He was 0 of his last 13 coming into this game. He was 1 of his last 22 from the three-point line was Devin Royal coming into this game. So his ability to be very, very strong from behind the arc, his ability to just deliver for Ohio State in a game where they really needed help without John Mobley Jr., that was absolutely huge for the Buckeyes. Wisconsin has no Austin Rapp, but obviously John Mobley Jr. a little bit more important to Ohio State than Austin Rapp is to Wisconsin. No offense to Rapp, especially after what he did the first game between Ohio State and Wisconsin. But all in all, a fantastic performance from Devin Royal. He looked very, very comfortable. Yeah, he shot a heat check and he missed it, whatever. And toward the end of the game, he tried to go for a layup with less than 2 minutes left to go when it's just like, relax, Devin. Dribble the ball out and we'll be fine. We broke the press. We're good. We don't need another shot here. Let's not give Wisconsin another possession. So you have moments like that from Devin Royal, but all in all, a highly productive day out of Devin Royal, and really, really encouraging to see, especially based on how his prior performances have gone for Ohio State. We do have to talk about Bruce Thornton, though. Bruce Thornton in this game, 27 points. That leads the team. That leads all scorers. By the way, Ohio State had the top 2 scorers in this game. The top 2 scorers, or the top scorer for Wisconsin, not named Blackwell, not named Wood. We'll talk about that later. Bruce Thornton scores 27 points in this game, 9 of 18 from the field, 3 of 6 from the 3-point line. I already mentioned the 9 rebounds. He also had 8 assists. He had 5 assists, I think, in the first 5 minutes of this game. So he was incredible, was Bruce Thornton, in terms of distributing, finding open guys early on. In this one, he assisted on the first make of the game for Ohio State and continued that throughout. He really helped Ohio State put the pressure on Wisconsin late in this game. We'll talk about the timeout that Jake Diebler took later on in this show. He had 12 points for Ohio State from the 5:53 mark to the 1:57 mark in the second half. It wasn't clutch time. It was closing time at that point for Ohio State. Bruce Thornton was phenomenal in this game for the Buckeyes. This is 2 straight games now, really 3 straight games. You look back to the USC game, he scored 20 plus points. He's playing really, really good basketball. He's playing his best basketball when the Buckeyes need him the most. And I think Bruce Thornton is determined right now to get Ohio State to the NCAA tournament. This win against Wisconsin really helps your odds for that. But a huge game for Bruce Thornton, a huge game from Devin Royal. Now, this kind of goes into takeaways / stats. I don't know where you want to put this, but how about we talk about Puff Johnson in this game? So he may not have stuck out to you necessarily. He stuck out to me just by the fact that I continue to see him on the floor more so than it felt like I had ever seen him this year. And then the game ends and I take a look at the stats and it was true. This is the most playing time that Puff Johnson has gotten in a game for Ohio State. He played 17 minutes in this one. His previous high was 15 against USC. Obviously, I think no John Mobley Jr. Your rotation kind of gets, it just gets moved around a little bit, and there's more minutes to be had. Puff Johnson got those minutes. He's taken the minutes from Colin White, for example. But he plays 17 minutes in this one, 4 points, 2 of 4 from the field. So not a huge offensive production from Puff Johnson in this one. But where I thought he was impressive is it felt like he was really in tune to the flow of the game for Ohio State offensively. There were times where he was really aggressive. He wanted to attack the basket. He got to the free throw line in this one. He missed both of his free throw attempts, but he did get to the free throw line. So I thought Puff Johnson, even with just 1 rebound, regardless of the stats, it's clear he's starting to settle into his role now for Ohio State. He's passed up Colin White in terms of minutes there at the wing off the bench. He's getting more settled in. I think that they trust him to play as a bigger man. And what I mean by that is that Puff Johnson, I don't know what he stands at. I'm not going to look it up at this point either. But Puff Johnson, 6'7"-ish, right? They're trusting him to play more of a 4 and even be a small 5 at this point in some rotations, where if you don't have Njegovan in there, you don't have Christoph Tilly in there, which we'll talk about them coming up right after we talk about Puff Johnson. He's a guy that they're trusting at this point to get more minutes and to get settled in, to get in the flow of the game for Ohio State. So that was an interesting tidbit, I think, as well from this game. Puff Johnson getting some more minutes for Ohio State, and we'll see where that goes for the Buckeyes moving forward. So I've talked a fair amount on this show about center play, and it's been Christoph Tilly. It's been Ivan Njegovan. Neither of them have been great for Ohio State. We wait and we wait and we wait for consistent play out of Christoph Tilly, which at this point, I mean, how many games are we in now? What's Ohio State 18-7 or something like that? Let me check. Yeah, they're 26 games in. So I think they're, whatever their record is, I think they're 26 games in, right? They got 5 left to go to get to 31. We have been waiting for consistent play from Christoph Tilly. We're not going to get it. The only thing that's going to be consistent about Christoph Tilly for the rest of the year is that he plays inconsistently. That's just how it's going to go. Tilly, in this game for Ohio State, scores 2 points, goes 1 of 3 from the field, 4 rebounds in 19 minutes of play. Now, Ivan Njegovan, 4 points. Sorry, Tilly had 2 points. I think I said he had 4 points. Njegovan, 4 points, 1 of 1 from the field, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds. That's +2 on Tilly. And he played 14 minutes. So on a points per minute basis, points per 40, Njegovan actually outpaces Christoph Tilly. Look, at this point, there's a lot to be said about the play of Christoph Tilly. There's a lot to be said about the play of Njegovan and preferences from fans and all those different types of things. In this game, Njegovan was better, I think. I think even with the fouls, Tilly fouled out. Njegovan obviously dealt with fouls as well, or no? Am I seeing this right? Njegovan apparently had no fouls. I thought that he struggled with fouls. He struggled defending the rim a little bit in this game. But all in all, I think Njegovan was a better player. I think that you continue to look at Tilly and you're gonna wonder every single game for Ohio State moving forward. What are you going to get out of Christoph Tilly? Is it going to be 2 points or 14 points? Because it's generally there's no in between. It's either a really good performance from Christoph Tilly or a not so good performance from Christoph Tilly. So he wasn't great in this one. Coming off the bench, Njegovan plays a little bit better. I struggle to be optimistic about Christoph Tilly playing Purdue or Michigan State in those front courts, but we'll see what happens in that one. The center position is still, I think, a little bit of an issue for the Buckeyes at this point. What else do we have here as we switch our notes around here? So Ohio State led for 37 minutes and 45 seconds in this game. Now, that's impressive against any Big Ten team you play. I don't care if it's Northwestern, Oregon, Minnesota, whoever, or Purdue, Iowa, Michigan State, Wisconsin, wherever you want to look across the Big Ten. If you lead a team for that long, that's really impressive. That's just a show of dominance. The Big Ten is so close. I talk to people behind the scenes all the time when it comes to coaching in the Big Ten. You go from 1 down to 18. The gap in terms of coaching level and preparedness and game planning on a game-to-game basis is not as large as you may think. So the fact that Ohio State is doing this not against a lesser opponent in the Big Ten, not against a comparable opponent, but a team that I think we all would say, would you rather be in Wisconsin shoes or Ohio State shoes right now? Probably Wisconsin's. So the fact that you lead for basically 38 minutes of a 40-minute game against a team that should probably be better than you, I think that's huge for Ohio State. I get the Buckeyes were on their own floor, but Wisconsin just beat Illinois and they just destroyed Michigan State. Michigan State, by the way, they took it to UCLA. They took out their aggression on UCLA last night as well. So much to the point that Mick Cronin ejected his own player. That's how bad it got in that game. So the fact that Ohio State does this against Wisconsin team, it shows their ceiling is still potentially quite high. Now, how close will Ohio State get to this ceiling for the rest of the year? I don't know. But if you can get close-ish to playing this level of basketball against Purdue, I think you're probably winning that game. You do that at Iowa, I think you're probably winning that game. You do that at home against Indiana, you're probably winning that game. So we see the potential here for Ohio State. We see the ceiling. And again, the fact that you lead a team by 38 or for 38 minutes, you win a game by 17 points, just really impressive. It was wire to wire essentially for Ohio State. And it was from the jump. They led 2-0. And then from there, they slowly started to push away from Wisconsin. I started to get flashbacks to the Virginia game, to the first time Ohio State played Wisconsin as well, and said, well, I've seen this before. I struggle to get too hyped up about the way that this game is going. Let's see where it gets at halftime. Let's see where we are with 12 minutes left to go in the second half. And he kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And Ohio State really never let up. And it was a dominant win in all facets for Ohio State. And this one, last stat here, John Blackwell and Nick Boyd each scored 14 points for Wisconsin. You look at Braden Carrington in this game, he scored 20 points. A lot of that comes in the second half where he hit some shots from deep. But Nick Boyd, 6 of 15 from the field. He missed all 4 of his 3-pointers attempted. John Blackwell, 14 points as well, 5 of 11 from the field, so a little bit more efficient, 2 of 5 from the 3-point line. He had 4 fouls in this game, which I think probably helped a little bit in terms of limiting his minutes. He did play 32 minutes, so he was in there for a while. Nick Boyd played 33, but this is a two-headed monster, one of the best backcourts in the Big Ten, in the nation, with Boyd and Blackwell. And Ohio State, they did not have the answer in the first matchup between these two. And in this one, they did. It was really impressive. It was really encouraging to see how Ohio State really, it seemed like Boyd and Blackwell both just didn't feel comfortable. They didn't get into the flow of the game. That was important. That was impressive for Ohio State defending Wisconsin in this one. So good for the Buckeyes on that one defensively. Takeaways from this game. All of this is really takeaways, right? I mean, it's not like any of this is not takeaways. More so just thoughts at this point. Look, first one, and some fans aren't going to like this, but it's the truth. Jake Diebler, he's refusing to go on a 2-game losing streak. He still won't do it. I believed with all my heart, and this is why I don't bet. I believed with all my heart that Wisconsin was going to win this game. I would have taken an alternate spread. I would have taken Wisconsin money line. I probably would have parlayed it with something stupid, and I would have lost money because as much faith as I had in Wisconsin, as much as I hated the matchup, the way Ohio State matched up with the Badgers in this one, Ohio State got the job done. It felt like it was kind of against all odds. Everyone knows how big of a game this was for Ohio State, so for them to come out flat in this one would have been a huge disappointment, but I don't know how many fans came into this game saying, oh, yeah, I definitely think Ohio State is going to win. It was the least confident I've felt in an Ohio State team after a loss this entire season. And yet, Jake Diebler still will not lose 2 games in a row. After the loss to Virginia, he rights the ship. And I continue to say kind of my thoughts on Jake Diebler from time to time, and I try not to get too into the weeds during the season, but I think this is a sign of growth, and I think this entire year for Ohio State has been a sign of growth. As frustrating as the Virginia loss was, as frustrating as some other losses have been for Ohio State so far this year, just the fact that every team controls their destiny. Even February 17th, you can win enough games and potentially not even have to win your Big Ten tournament in order to get to the NCAA tournament, other than, your Penn States of the world and examples like that. But for the most part, a lot of teams still control their own destiny at this point, where if you win out, you can get into the NCAA tournament. That's what, 60% of Power Five conferences at this point. So that said, I think Ohio State's ability to come out strong in this one, and Jake Diebler willing or game planning Ohio State to victory and a dominant victory in this one, and also the fact that you've done it against such a good team, and we're seeing again this team metrically, the resume is taking shape with this win for sure. I think it's really, really impressive to see from Jake Diebler. It's really, really impressive to see from this Ohio State team. And you're allowed to be skeptical of Jake Diebler and still encouraged by this performance by Ohio State. I think so many people are either on one side or the other. We can ride the fence a little bit. It's allowed. You can do that. And I think, at least for me, I'm skeptical, sure, still of Jake Diebler, still of this Ohio State team this year, but optimistic, encouraged about this game. Yeah, 100%. Another takeaway: Ohio State officially has its first signature win of the season. Forget about Northwestern. That is not a signature win. Although it sometimes floats back into quad one territory, that's not a signature win whatsoever. The win over West Virginia, I mean, you got to root for West Virginia to get into the NCAA tournament at this point. They've got obviously some work to do here, but the fact that Ohio State picks up a victory over Wisconsin, it's huge. Now, here's the thing: you're going to have to root hard for Wisconsin down the stretch. The Badgers have Iowa, Purdue, and then 3 gimmies, bottom feeders of the Big Ten. I can easily see 4 wins out of 5 here. That could push Wisconsin into the top 30 in the net and make this qualify as a quad one win for Ohio State. Now, the other side for Wisconsin, where if they do win 4 out of 5 games here to close the regular season, that seed line for Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament, it's going to get better, which means in theory, their chance to stack more wins increases because they're going to play lesser opponents in the Big Ten tournament. Now, I will say, if you go from a 5 to a 3, is the difference all that much? No, it's not. But you better your odds, you better your chances. A lot of those matchups are just about how do you defend that team, how do you profile against that team, and I get that for sure. But you're going to be needing to root for Wisconsin down the stretch, and they're going to have a lot of winnable games here as well. So in theory, this could get pushed to a quad one win. Now that Ohio State has beaten Wisconsin, you need Wisconsin to be top 30 in the net so Ohio State can claim a quad one victory. Maybe Northwestern rises as well. You get to 2. You beat Iowa. That's 3. And that's for sure going to be a quad one win for Ohio State. So Big opportunity for Ohio State down the stretch here, but also opportunities for teams that they could beat or have beaten, where they need them to win to bolster this resume. Another takeaway, Ohio State finished this game. How many times this year have you seen Ohio State not finish? How about the Virginia game on Saturday, for example? There's been moments where Ohio State hasn't been able to finish games. You look at the Washington game as well. I think I mentioned this before. They led from the 17-minute mark in the first half to the 17-minute mark in the second half, and then they fell apart. They were not able to finish that game whatsoever. They got beat up on the glass. They were out-toughed in that one. They dealt with injury. It happens, but that's a game you should have won. And now for Ohio State, you see this game against Wisconsin. Again, I think we were all pretty nervous. Even with the lead Ohio State built, you're wondering, can Wisconsin get back into this game? And they did get back in the game. You give the Badgers credit. With 6 minutes left to go, Wisconsin cut the lead down to 12. Jake Diebler calls a timeout. The haters of Jake Diebler flood my comments at the time that Jake Diebler timeout is called like moths to a lamp. I mean, they couldn't get enough. And I don't know. Fans fan the way that they want to fan. And I get that, but just constantly hate watching Ohio State when they're in the mix to make the NCAA tournament. It doesn't make sense to me. Regardless, Ohio State's lead gets cut down to 12. Jake Diebler calls a timeout. Bruce Thornton hits a three immediately. And then the lead goes to 14. It goes to 16. It goes to 18, 19, 20. And this was a lead that steadily grew. It wasn't a lead that was kind of back and forth and up and down. And Wisconsin stayed in it for a little bit. It was timeout Jake Diebler and Ohio State done. Wisconsin, here's the door. You can walk out. This game is over. It's just a matter of time at this point before the clock hits 0. So Jake Diebler takes that timeout and Ohio State closed. I was terrified of Ohio State winning this game by 8 points. I was terrified of it getting interesting with 58 seconds left to go. That's the last thing I wanted because I just wanted a game, as you probably did as well, where Ohio State just finishes a team. And they did that to Wisconsin in this one. So Ohio State still does not have that signature quad one victory. I already talked about the potential that this Wisconsin game could be for the Buckeyes by the time the season ends. I'm not going to call Northwestern a quad one win until we are at Selection Sunday and the net is finalized and we know that Northwestern is a quad one win. Until then, I'm considering them a quad two win. Ohio State at this point, the metrics favor them. Ken Pom loves them. The net is high enough on them to get that at-large bid. Right now, Ohio State, the only weakness is that quad one record. They've got a bunch of losses. They've got no wins. The quad two record, really good. Quad 3 and 4, they're perfect. That's huge. If Ohio State's resume is where it is right now, but you've got a quad 3 or a quad 4 loss, makes it a lot harder to slide them into the NCAA tournament. Right now, you've got your signature win now over Wisconsin. You got to get a quad one win. The Buckeyes are going to have the opportunity to do that here coming up, not just this weekend against Michigan State, but then against Iowa on the road. Either of those will be quad one wins forever. A Purdue win will be a quad one win forever as well. And then you get Penn State, which will be quad two probably, and quad two with Indiana at home. So the Buckeyes are going to have their opportunities. I've said this all along. Ohio State has the opportunities here. They've just got to take them. They just got to win. So we'll see if they can do that. Excited to see if they can do that as well. I hope you'll continue to follow along with me during the season on Ohio State basketball. It's been up and down, but man, you can say really good night last night for Ohio State. So we will get you a show probably Friday. It'll be Friday when we do an Ohio State-Michigan State preview, and then Michigan State will play Ohio State on Sunday. Big one in East Lansing. Monday, you'll get a game recap, and we will continue on along. Thanks so much for being here today. Enjoy the victory. It's a big one for the Buckeyes. Until next time, I shut up. Before you shut me off, go Bucks.